Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Blankenburg. Welcome to Office Hours. Every week we get together and we talk about Alexa and voice and ambient computing. And I'm here in a brand new place today. Some of you may not even recognize the location that I'm in, but this is our old studio. So before COVID, before the world had gotten all shaken up, I worked on a team, a large team. There was about 5 or 6 of us here in the United States and about 10 more globally. And we were the evangelism team for Alexa. Things have changed, things have moved around, priorities have shifted, people have found new opportunities. And because of that, this studio has been sitting, just getting dusty, not doing anything. And so I did my best to set it back up. It's not at all perfect. In fact, we have this really amazing high-def camera that's sitting here behind me. And I wasn't able to even figure out how to connect it back to this computer. I had to reconnect all of the pieces, hook up monitors and microphones. I've got things just here above me. I did my best to get it back to its best possible state, but it's not everything. I'm still running off of like a very inexpensive Logitech webcam instead of the great camera we have in here. But I'm here, and we're going to do office hours. So thank you guys all for being here. I'm happy to answer all of your questions. Oxygen Box wants to know if the drill is still on the shelf. I did see a drill in here somewhere. I don't remember where it is, but I don't see a drill on the shelf specifically. No, there is no drill on the shelf, but there is no shortage of stuff just laying around this room. So welcome. Jenny Merrill, thank you for the welcome back to the studio. Joe Mocode is here. Joe has spent some hours in the studio. Anyway, thank you guys all for being here today. And if I can answer any of your questions, I don't have one of our lovely developer advocates here with me today, but I'm sure they will return next week. We had a bunch of scheduling issues, so we'll have one of those fine folks back here next week. So Goldzulu, you're most certainly in the right place. This is the right channel. We're just doing it a little different today. I'm in Seattle. I'm in the studio. I'm so excited to be here. Oxygen Box, next time, I think I'm going to have to, maybe we'll do it from a hot tub. Maybe I'll do that. Bernardo, welcome. Hello. Joe said he was in here last Friday. He likes what I did with the place. Yeah, all I did was just move everything out of the shot. Like you can see, there's even a chair still here in the shot. We'll see if we can fix that. There we go. Cedar Point was amazing. For those of you that know, last Friday I went to Cedar Point, which is a roller coaster park here, roller coaster park in Ohio. That's not where I am right now. And I went on all the rides with my kids. We had an awesome day. It was a beautiful, beautiful weather. I got a little sunburned and ate some junk food. It was good. Do you like to sit in the front? Gold Zulu, that is the only place to sit on a roller coaster, is the front seat. And we did lots and lots of that. All right, we have our first question, it looks like, although I do love the conversation with all of you. Oswet on YouTube says, I was trying to implement the skill activation API, but while doing it, my user has to log in twice. Any solution for this? So user can only log in once using login with Amazon. I don't know the skill activation API. That doesn't sound like a thing I'm familiar with. So I think that's a term you're using. Skill activation API. How do I not know about this? Does it have a date that this was? How do I not know about this API at all? Oh, this is the new skill activation API? I haven't actually played with this yet, so I apologize that I don't have a good answer for you. But using login with Amazon, I mean, it should only require the one login. You shouldn't have to go through multiple login steps. So app-to-app account linking. Yeah, this is not something that I have an answer for you, unfortunately, Aswet. I wish that I did, but I am sure that you should not have to log in twice. And using the login with Amazon. So here, let me share my screen. Maybe we'll do. Here, let's take this over here, and then we can share screen one. like so. There we go. So this is what we're referring to, the Alexa Skill Activation API. And you can see that here, you can see the app-to-app account linking or the login with Amazon path for where you want to do this. Let me see if I can blow that up a little bit. You can read it better. So you have to get this authorization code from the API. This all makes sense. This is very OAuth friendly. And then you need to make sure that you are requesting access to the account linking scope to be able to do this. But I would say that you probably just want to head down this login with Amazon path. It doesn't look like that's just the basic login with Amazon. But I unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you as to why you would have the user log in twice. But I do have, let's do this. I will just, you guys know that I publish this all the time, so please don't abuse it. That is my email address. Oswald, if you want to send me an email, I'd be happy to take a look at it. But honestly, what my recommendation would be is to go here, which is alexa.design/ maybe contact us. And I would fill out a form there because they can also help you with some of those issues. A third place to look, because I don't have the knowledge that you're looking for, is to jump into the Alexa community Slack. So we'll add here. I can do this one as a banner. I thought I had that one. Let's see if I can go back. Why is this not working? There we go. I'll put this on the screen so you can see it. But it's alexa.design/Slack. And Joe Moko just added it. Thank you, Joe. Alexa.design/Slack. If I could type properly, that would be better. Okay. So the Slack is also a great place to communicate with people and get some feedback from folks that may have actually already done it. I am unfortunately one of those people. Oh, Oswald, yeah, I have another answer for you. So I'm gonna answer your question here, and then I'm gonna go back and scroll up and get to the rest of the questions that have come in. So your final question was, one more thing I need to ask you with regards to this. Is there any other method from which a user can discover my Alexa skill from my website? Yes. The answer that I will recommend is something called account linking. And if you haven't, not account linking, I'm sorry, quick links. And so let me see if I can find the doc for that. Quick links. Quick links is a way for you to provide a very specific link. You can see the URL format here. I'll drop this link in the chat as well. But these quick links allow you to not only provide a mechanism for your user to click on something on your website or in your mobile app or whatever and go directly to your skill, but also it allows you to designate that they go to a specific place or location inside your skill as well. So quick links are fantastic for that. You can see that down here a bit further down, they have the option to do account linking. I thought there was custom tasks is another thing that you can do. So custom tasks would allow you to navigate the user to a very specific place inside your skill. So quick links is what you're looking for. All right, so let me make sure I don't miss anything else. That was Oswet. Detria Apti says, is this a live session? Yes, it absolutely is a live session. Welcome from YouTube. Startup wants to know if I'm here in Seattle. Yes, I am. This is the old Seattle studio that I'm sitting in. And I'm glad that I could be here. And sleepless is absolutely right, Gold Zulu. I am not sleeping while I'm here. I am 100% exhausted. It's 9 in the morning and I'm ready for bed. It's ridiculous. I don't do well with the time shift. But I do love Seattle. So yes, I am in Seattle this week. I'm here for some super secret project that I can't share with you yet. But yeah, we're doing a bunch of recording and cool stuff, and you'll know. You'll find out later why I was here. All right, so let's see. Startup has a link here that's interesting. Let me see if I can copy this. A forum post that looks like Startup is sharing about an app-to-app account linking problem. All right, so The try wants to know, I was trying an Alexa conversation skill. Does it work for India? Jomo, do you know? I don't know the distribution of Alexa conversations. Yeah, so you can see right here, Alexa conversation supports ENUS only currently. So Datatria, that answers your question right there. Alexa conversation currently only supports ENUS. All right, let's see. Habuma1 is here. Welcome. Let's see. Alex Nickel on Twitch says, I've got a quick question about flash briefing and U.S. copyright law. Hello from the UK. Currently having a flash briefing skill in beta for someone visually impaired. The flash briefing skill serves articles that are scraped by a separate component. The articles are scraped from 3 local county news websites. The person I'm doing this for was wondering whether it could be distributed on the store, but I don't know enough about U.S. copyright law to be certain myself. I don't know where the rules fall on this. If you are scraping an article from another publication, I think that as long as you provide attribution, you should be okay. Yeah, that should be allowed, right? So if you preface playing their content by saying this article was found on Medium or whatever, like give the person credit, maybe give the author credit. If you're already scraping, you can probably pull that information too. I think you should be fine. As long as you're providing attribution, there should be no issue with you presenting that content. I think where it could get weird is if you were doing things that would benefit you financially. If you were profiting from that content, which flash briefings don't do, but if there were mechanisms you put in place that would then allow you to profit from providing their content, I think then you get into some weird conditions. But I think just providing that content with attribution should be acceptable. I think. Now, I'm no lawyer, but that's my understanding. Leah wants to know, an intent response cannot include both a dialogue directive and a dynamic entity directive. Are there plans to make it impossible to include both? Well, Leah, one of the things that we never do here on Office Hours is talk about plans or roadmap or future. And as much as I would love to, I don't have any answers for you on that. So I know that it is always our goal to make everything as useful and beneficial to users as possible, to our developers. So I would think that this is something, what I'm going to do is grab this as a piece of feedback to make sure that it is on their radar. But this leads me to a good conversation. Here, I'll stop sharing my screen for a little bit. In that you guys have power. You have the ability to get the attention of our developers that are working on the product directly. And there's a couple of mechanisms you can do that. The first one would be to use the Contact Us form and just say, hey, is this possible? Can I do this? Because that lands with our developer advocacy team. And our developer advocacy team collects these kinds of issues, the unsolvable things that they can't provide an answer for today. And they funnel that to our product team and they say, hey, a bunch of developers are asking about this. We need to help solve this problem for them. And the more they see it, the more likely it is to end up on roadmaps. The other thing that I will recommend is going to alexa.uservoice.com. And I'm bringing that up here. I'll share my screen again this way. Alexa.uservoice.com. If you guys, wrong browser. Alexa.uservoice.com, if you guys don't know, is a place that you can go and recommend the things that you want as a developer. And you can see they're broken down into all sorts of categories here on the right-hand side. But the number one thing, the number one idea right now that has the most votes is the ability to support the Russian language. I don't know if that affects you or if that's something that's important to you, but you can come here and you can vote up the things that are important to you. You can see that there's a long list of things that people want, allowing Alexa to pause during a conversation. You can also see that if things are tagged as received, this means that the Alexa team has acknowledged this and said, thanks, we've recorded this. This means it's on their list. This does not mean they're building it. It does not mean that they're promising any kind of delivery, but it does mean that they are aware of it. And that's a big step. So I would recommend, as you look through this list, if you see things you like, vote on them. If you see things if you have things that aren't on this list, and you can search for them by just starting to type. Like if I say, I know another one is Polish. That's a language. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. That was one of the things that was in here. But we could say timeout. As I start to type in timeout, you can see that it's showing me existing ideas that match that word in some way. So you can be like, oh yeah, this is actually exactly what I'm going for. And you click on vote and you can vote these things up. So if you're not spending a little bit of time here as a developer thinking about the things that you want, can't recommend it enough. User Voice is a place that you should spend some time. So alexa.uservoice.com is where you can go to do that. Telling me is obviously also beneficial. And I'm going to open up a notepad file right now. I'm going to take your feedback that you just gave me, and I will pass this along as well. Coming from all of those different channels, though, each one of them have a voice inside of our kind of, we call it our Voice of the Skill Builder program, and each of us have a voice. So it's good to see your feedback showing up in multiple places. Okay. Moose Cup wants to know if they should get their COVID vaccine for $80 or wait until they'll pay you more. If you're getting paid to get your vaccine, you should do it. Take any amount of money they will give you. I got mine for free, and I fully would have paid to get it. So I think that if someone's going to pay you to get it, do it. That's my recommendation. So Data Try, if you want to make an Alexa conversation skill workable for India, my recommendation is build it for ENUS now. And when India is available, it should be a very easy transition to be able to make it possible in India. But get the work done now in English for the US, and then it should be an easy transition, at least to the English India locale, if not the Hindi ones. So I would recommend making it work for US English now so that you're ready when it is available in India. All right, so Gavin Watson says, how does Amazon decide which Alexa skills generate revenue? Is it a number of enablements, number of interactions, something else, or a combination of all of that? Is this documented anywhere? Thanks. It is most purposefully not documented anywhere, and it isn't a specific thing. It is definitely an aggregation of a number of things. In the same way that if we think about things like radio and TV programs, there's a number of values that go into deciding whether or not a television show is successful, right? It's not just the number of viewers, but it's also the amount of time they watched, the engagement that they have, lots and lots of things like that. So in my personal perspective, and I don't have any views into this algorithm, but what Gavin is referring to is our Alexa Developer Rewards program, where Amazon sends money to developers that have the top performing skills in each category. I would focus on things like engagement, number of users, number of interactions, all of those things as a combination. But honestly, if you just build a fun, engaging skill that attracts users and has them stick around, I think that you will find some success. But I do not have a specific algorithm or a specific measurement for you. And I would imagine that it changes from time to time too. So, but building something that is popular, both for individual users and as a breadth goes, should be a good target for you. Excuse me. So my understanding, Goldzulu is talking about APL being available in the mobile iOS or Android apps. I thought that it was. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me see if I can take a look. I don't want any of this right now. Please get out of my way. Just stop. Okay. So I'm going to my phone and I'm going to the Alexa app, and I'll open up my Star Wars skill. Alexa, open unofficial Star Wars databank.
Handing off to Star Wars databank, unofficial, by Jeff Blankenburg.
Hello. I was expecting someone with your reputation to be a little older. What would you like to know?
Tell me about Chewbacca.
You asked me about Chewbacca. A legendary Wookiee warrior and Han Solo's co-pilot aboard the Millennium Falcon, Chewbacca was part of a core group of rebels who restored free.
Show me the trailer for episode 1.
Your device doesn't support video, so I can show you the trailer. What else can I provide information about?
Show me the opening crawl for episode 1.
Turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic. The taxation of trade routes to outlying star systems is
Okay, so I'm torn on that because it said that I don't support video, that my device does not support video. I wasn't necessarily expecting that. I think that was just the card that I was funneling out, which cards are fine. But why did I think that APL was working in the app? I feel like I had an experience recently where I thought that I saw APL in the mobile app. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't. Detatry wants to know if Alexa will be able to speak and understand the Marathi language. Again, that's a future roadmap kind of thing. I don't actually know the answer to that. But just for clarification, if I did know the answer, I wouldn't be permitted to share that. Unless it's public information, I don't have the ability to share that stuff here in office hours. As much as I would love to be able to tell you guys about all the cool things that are coming and what's going on with Alexa Live and all that other stuff. I don't have the ability to do that, unfortunately. Okay. Let's see. Can you make a skill that includes AWS wavelength for Alexa Auto? I have to say that I don't even know what AWS wavelength is. My apologies. Let's see. Mobile edge computing applications deliver ultra-low latency applications for 5G devices. And so I'm going to go back to your question, which is, can you make a skill that includes AWS wavelength for Alexa Auto? LJ, I'm going to say no, because of the way that Alexa's structured and the way that all of that stuff works. I don't think I don't think so, because what we're talking about here is like compute and storage services at the edge, which would mean like running compute and storage somehow locally in the car. I don't think so. And it also seems like the wavelength zones are awfully limited. There's only 10 cities in the US and only like 12 cities globally. So my guess is no for now. But it's a good thing to keep your eye on. It's an interesting concept, but no, I don't believe so. What are the technical requirements when trying to get an auth code from our authorization server? Do they not talk about that in the account linking stuff? That feels like let's see if I can go back to app-to-app account linking. I would guess that they have that in the docs, but I'm going to give you this link here. That question came from Esha Sawikar on YouTube. I'm going to drop this comment here. But Esha, hopefully that gets you what you need. That is the page that I would recommend you read thoroughly. But I would assume that any technical requirements that are necessary are listed on that page. If I create a skill in NUS, I cannot test it on the Echo Show, which is registered in India. Datatry, I agree. If you're trying to use things that are only available in the US, what I would recommend is get a second device that you register only as ENUS. Another option is to do all of your testing either in the simulator at developer.amazon.com or the simulator that you can run inside VS Code if you're developing locally. Both of those work very well, and you can indicate what region you're in. So maybe just try using one of the virtual simulators rather than an actual device. But yeah, you need to have a device registered to that country in order to get that to work. Fabio, welcome from Brazil. Q311 wants to know, if I don't want to buy a whole new garage door opener, is there an Alexa device that can tell me if my garage door is open or closed? Well, there isn't specifically an Alexa device, but there are lots of third-party smart home devices that will do this for you. I will share. Well, maybe I won't share the one that I have. Did they stop selling that? Let me see. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Oh yeah, there it is. But it's currently unavailable. Okay, so let me start here. I'm going to share this link only because this is the one that I have, and so I'm putting a little bit of an endorsement on this. This is a company called Garagio, and this is just a little black box that you attach to your existing garage door opener. This is exactly what I did, and it works with Alexa, so I can control it with my voice, do all that kind of stuff. But that being said, if you go to Amazon, you will find that there are all sorts of devices that are garage door opener controllers. Here, I can go back to sharing my screen, like so. I'm just on Amazon. I typed in Garagio, but if you just type in like garage door Alexa, you will find that there are garage doors, but there are also these little controllers that you can plug in. And these controllers oftentimes will do exactly what you're describing, which is to not have to change my garage door opener, but instead use some mechanism. And you can even, as part of your search, one of the options is works with Alexa. And so you can see here that there are lots and lots of different kinds of devices that will do exactly that. But I have had fantastic experience with Garagio. And they're a startup actually based in Columbus, Ohio, where I live. So I've worked with them very closely. But that would be my recommendation. But I'm not endorsing them. It's not like it's a paid commercial or anything. I think there's probably many devices out there that will work just fine. But that's been my experience. When I'm coming to the AWS portal from the developer portal, I'm not permitted to do anything there. How do I resolve this issue? Well, I need a little more information about what you're describing. If you're going to AWS and the developer portal are completely separate systems, separate logins, separate everything. And so there's a lot of questions I have to answer your question specifically. But what I will try to do is if you're building your skill and you have created an AWS Lambda function as part of your own personal Lambda account, you can go over there and you can interact with all that stuff. If you built an Alexa skill that uses Alexa hosted skills, right? So Alexa is taking care of all of your hosting for you. There are links in the developer portal that will take you to your Lambda, to your S3 bucket, to your CloudWatch logs, to your DynamoDB database. All of that stuff is set up for you on AWS, but as part of your developer console information. And so you have to go there. If you go to AWS to try to access that stuff, it's not there. You don't have an account with AWS. You don't have to pay for those services, which is why they're not there. You have to get to them from the developer console. So I need a little more clarification, but in general, AWS and the developer console are separate places, separate things. But when you're in the developer console and you have an Alexa hosted skill, we create a bunch of AWS assets for you, but they're not on AWS for you to get to. They are in the developer console. You can click to get to them there, but that's the only place. Hopefully that answers your question. All right. Sriram says, the auth code generated by Amazon Alexa can only be used once to generate access token in the app-to-app account linking. And the skill activation API requires a fresh auth code along with the access tokens. Any solution to this, since this is why the user has to log in twice when doing account linking, when the Alexa skill started from a third-party app or website. Interesting. Well, sure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this information that you've shared and that someone else shared earlier. I'm going to copy this into my little notepad file somewhere, and I'll funnel this up to my product team. We'll see what we can come up with. So stay on me on top of this. Fill out the contact us form. Add this to the user voice, alexa.uservoice.com. Do all the things because that gets them more attention. It gets more surface area, right? Datatria, you're asking about live sessions like this in the future. We do this every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's noon Eastern time. And we do this every Tuesday. We're here for an hour every Tuesday. We also have a European team that is doing this on Wednesdays. I believe it is at 8 a.m. Eastern time, but don't hold me to that. But my recommendation would be to, oh, I sound like a YouTuber here. Mash that subscribe button. Make sure to hit the bell for notifications there on YouTube, and that will alert you when we go live so that you know when these things are happening. They happen on a regular schedule. So I don't remember exactly what the European time is. I know Bernardo was here earlier, but I think it's 8 a.m. Eastern time. And my recommendation would be to just subscribe to the channel that you like. We are broadcasting on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch all at the same time. And so subscribe to the one that you like the most, and that way you'll get notified when we go live. And we usually go live about 5 minutes before the broadcast, so you have a little warning. And most of these sessions go for an hour. So yes, but thank you, Trey Last. The schedule on the Twitch page is incorrect. I will add a note to fix that. Twitch schedule is incorrect. All right, so 8 a.m. Pacific time for the EU session. So that's 11 a.m. Eastern time, and that'll be on Wednesdays. So that is done to target more of the EU time zones, more of the Eastern time zones. Is there a multimodal meetup? No, there's not. We were doing that for a while when Greg Bulmash was on our team. And before that, when Justin Jeffress, no, was it Justin or Joe? We've had several people that were doing kind of an APL thing, but with our team being kind of slim right now, we just don't have the capacity to do all of those right now. But my hope is that we will have more multimodal stuff in the future. Datatria wants to know how you use the S3 bucket in the AWS console for skills. Well, I mean, I can show you. It's relatively straightforward, but it's just a storage bucket, so you can just then refer to those files. So let me show you. If I go to developer.amazon.com, share my screen again. Quick little run through. So I'm going to go to the developer console. This computer doesn't know me at all. One-time password. Come on. There it is. 081616. Okay. So we go to the skills kit. How are we doing on time? Oh, it's only 9:30. Great. So here, I'll create a whole new skill just so we can show how this looks. So this is a test. And down here at the bottom, you can see that I'm choosing Alexa hosted for JavaScript, but Python's the same way. So I have Alexa hosted selected. I'm going to choose create skill. Start from scratch sounds just great. DJ MKY on Twitch, I have an amazing answer for you on how I do this. I do this quite often, quite frequently. So I'll show you in just a moment how I solve that problem. Let's just get through this, and then maybe I can even do it at the same time. So the question was, if I have a list of 200 plus items and you want Alexa to access and speak when called upon, what's the best practice advice? What would make it easily updatable in the future? A JSON file, DynamoDB, something else? So I use a service called Airtable to do this, but any database I think is really the right solution. Let me sign into this really quick. That was not my password. Okay. So if I show you like the Star Wars one, that's a good example. Star Wars database. And we'll get into this in just a second. So I have, let me go back to what I was doing, and then we'll come back to this. So developer console, I have my skill now. If I go to code, you can see in here, this is what I was mentioning. You have a DynamoDB, you have S3, you have CloudWatch, and then this obviously is your Lambda function. So if I click on S3, it opens a new tab for me. This is taking me to AWS. This is the S3 interface. And in here, I can upload files. So if I choose to upload a file, let's go find one. I have nothing on this computer at all, so give me one moment. Just give me literally any file. Come on. There's got to be a file on this computer somewhere. Here, I have that text file I was working on. We'll just save this. The desktop, call it 8.1.06.08. Now, if we come over here and go to desktop, I can upload this file, right? So I've chosen this file. One of the things that I recommend in here for permissions, in order to use it inside your skill, is you're going to need public read access, because your skill is going to need to be able to publicly access this file. So in here, I understand the risk. I'm making my file publicly accessible, and I'm uploading it. And why did that fail? Upload failed. View details below. Wow. Okay, what if I just choose to upload the file without the thing? Upload. Okay, now that I've done that, let's take a look at our file, and we should be able to come in here and choose Actions, Make Public. Oh, I guess they're being more secure than I generally am. But your Lambda should still have access to these files because of the it's on the access control list for that. So I guess you can't make things public. That's too bad. But in here, I now have that file somewhere. I went too far. If I look in my media, I have this text file. So this text file does exist. And I can click on it, and I don't have access this way, but I do have access through my skill. So once you have that, what you can do is take either the object URL or the S3 URL like this, and you can use this to point at your files to be able to drag that stuff in. So in your code back here, when you want to refer to a specific file or grab some text out of something, whatever, you can use those S3 addresses to get there. Anyway, that's a long story to get there, but that's that one. As for this, let's talk about Airtable for a second. So I have a Star Wars databank. We talked about that briefly a moment ago. Blow this up a little. And one of the things that I recommend is you can see I have an entry here for every character in the Star Wars universe. It's not actually all of them, but it's a significantly large number. I have 669 records here. This is anything from any of, if I find the media, any of these properties. So the game Battlefront 2, the show The Clone Wars, any of the episodes 1 through 9, and then the shows Rebel, Resistance, Rogue One, Solo, and The Mandalorian. So in there, these are just the characters, right? I can scroll through, I can find any and all characters for the most part. But I can also then, I have a table called Droid that has all the names of all the droids that you've ever met, and creatures like banthas and rancors, vehicles, weapons, technology. This is exactly kind of what you're describing, DJMKY. And I think this is, whether or not you use Airtable, that's up to you. This is just a database. But what I do here, and you can see this in all of my tables, is I have this. Voice description, card description, screen description, and then this is an extra one for me. But I also oftentimes will have a pronunciation column for when it makes sense. So let me see if I have that filled in anywhere. Here, we'll sort it. Sort. I don't apparently have pronunciation for any of those. I wonder if I have, but I have this pronunciation column. The reason that I think this is important, and I thought I used this more. Okay, here's a good example. So I have, this is called Octu. This is the place where Luke and Rey meet up and spend some time on that little island. And so it's spelled AHCH-TO. I want a representative visual version of that name. But you can see that I have a pronunciation table here. So when I say it, if I have a value in my pronunciation column, I use that as the way that I will say it to my user. I'll use this pronunciation. And usually it's phonetic, or I'll use some kind of SSML markup to be able to give it the appropriate pronunciation. I haven't done a ton of that yet, but there are certainly many more where I need to hear how Alexa says it because I want her to say it the right way. But then I have these. And the reason that these become important, voice description, card description, screen description, is that your voice description is also going to be marked up with SSML so that words are pronounced the way that you want them to be. There are also symbols and characters that Alexa doesn't know what to do with, like an ampersand, that you would not want in your voice description. You can be confident that whatever's in this column is never seen by a user. It's only ever heard. And so you can spell things weird, you can do whatever, but this is the way you want Alexa to pronounce the words. Card description and screen description, though, those are visual representations of this text where you might actually put it on the screen for a card inside the Alexa app or on a display. And screen description, this is my APL description. Now, the reason those are important to me and the reason that they're separate is because, to be perfectly honest, it's for one reason only. Cards use a different new line delimiter than screens do. The card description delimiter, which I don't think I have a lot of in here right now, but in the case that I need them to be separate, is the new line character, /n. So if I put in /n in my card description and I need a new line, I just put /n anywhere in the content and it'll bump it down a line for me. But the screen description doesn't recognize that. Screen description uses the standard HTML BR tag, line break tag. So because of that specific need, the fact that I may want line breaks in some of my content, I create two separate versions. They're almost identical all of the time, but in the times that I need them to be different, I have that flexibility. So that is why I have voice, card, and screen descriptions. And that's why I offer a pronunciation as well. So this is a very complex, very heavy example of this, but I do this all over the place. If you look at this is a trivia game. For my questions, you can see that I have voice question and voice answer. I also have a thing called voice answer note. This is where I have additional information. So if the trivia question was, what famous architect's son invented Lincoln Logs? This is the correct answer. So I need to be able to tell the user what the correct answer was after they answered correctly or incorrectly. But then I might also have additional kind of like trivia information where I say, oh, the answer to the question is Frank Lloyd Wright. But I might also say like his son's name was John Lloyd Wright. Like that's an extra piece of interesting information. And then I also have things like synonyms. So if someone just says Wright or Lloyd Wright, maybe they didn't say the entire Frank Lloyd Wright, it's still a right answer. I use that with dynamic entities to make sure that I'm funneling in only the appropriate slot values. There's lots going on here. But you can see that I still have my card question, screen question, card answer, card answer note, screen answer note. Like it starts to become a lot of data, right? But I do this so that I can show the right data on the right screen. Another example is this ampersand right here. For my actual answer, Calvin and Hobbes, when I speak it, you'll see that I have the word and. But for when I put it on the screen, I want Calvin with an ampersand, Hobbes. That was a lot, DJ MKY. So hopefully that explains it. But that's my, this has been my long over-engineered solution to the problem that you were describing. You can use a file in S3 or entries in a database. The challenge that I have with those, especially something like Dynamo, is that I'm not the only person writing this content. And the reason that I like Airtable is because this is a very simple spreadsheet interface. And so if I have any of my friends or colleagues or whoever I happen to be working with, if they want to contribute questions to this or entries into the Star Wars database, in any of those cases, I can provide them with a link to this and they know how to use this, right? They can come in here and it's really easy and obvious. They can look at the other examples. But if I give them something like Dynamo, that's not as familiar or friendly to a lot of people that aren't technical. And if I do it in a flat file, which again is a perfectly reasonable solution, now it becomes part of my deployment. And so now, yeah, someone else can edit that file, but then I have to go through an entire deployment process to push that back out to the application. With this, the moment you add a row to this database, it's live in my application. It's live and ready to go. And if you don't want it to be, the other trick that I found is that for every single record in my entire database, I have a column called is disabled. And if I don't want this question to show up anymore, I check this box, it's instantly pulled from everything. All of my queries check and only pull records where is disabled is false. So if I ever need to pull something out of circulation, whether it's a trivia question or even things like right and wrong answers. Well, no, that's not what I want. I want, let's see if I can find it. I think it's back here in my speech. But like I have welcome messages and goodbye messages, right? These are all ways that the skill says goodbye. So in these cases, if I'm like, oh, it says, if I don't see you around, I'll see you square, right? It's a terrible pun on saying goodbye. But if I don't want it to be used anymore, I just check this box and it's gone. No one will hear it again, ever. It's that easy. And if I want to bring it back, I can just do that. So if I'm having problems with a question or I want to reword something, it makes it really easy for me to pull things out of circulation. So these are things that I've learned as I've gone on. And hopefully I'm sharing a few of those lessons with you guys here, but that's my recommendation. Anyway, that's a long answer to your short question. Okay. Let's see. DJ MKY, I'll need to do the same. The right data for the right screen and separate card screen description to make those adjustments. Yeah, I totally agree. And I love Airtable for this specific purpose. Leah says, I've been debating between Airtable or Google Sheets database solution versus DynamoDB. I also want easier updated content. My worry is the performance for Airtable and Google Sheets decent for concurrent skill users. Yes, so far my experience has been that it performs very well. That being said, I think that they do have some very specific rules about performance. I don't know if I have access to that here, but somewhere in here they talk about what kind of concurrency you can have in performance. But if you do all this stuff in Airtable, you could always do some kind of CloudFront or something that sits in front of it that handles a lot of that concurrency for you. And then this is just where you manage your data. So there are ways to do that, where you could have all of your data live here, but this isn't your API. But Leah, if you're just teetering between Google Sheets or Airtable, I will tell you that I started with Google Sheets. And the reason that I like Airtable better, the number one reason, you'll see that when I look at this table, I have these tables have names, these columns have names. And so I can do things like user wrong.slot value, right? To be able to refer to these things in the document that comes back to me. When I use Google Sheets, I won't bring up Google Sheets, but everybody knows what Google Sheets look like. Even if I name the columns in Google Sheets, none of that comes through. So I have to have a mental mapping of what column 0 or column 4 or column 7 is. And what I have to do instead is treat the data that comes back as an array. So instead of just saying data.slot value, now I have to say data bracket 7 value. And I have to know that the 7th column is the one that I really want. So that's one of the reasons that I really like Airtable is whatever names I give these columns is the name that shows up in my API. Really, really incredibly valuable and convenient. The time savings alone, just on that one little thing, has been huge for me. But I don't want to take anything away from Google Sheets. It works really well. It is performant. And if you really run into concurrency issues with your users, you could always set up some kind of CDN, some content delivery network that holds your data someplace else. You update it here, and then when it recognizes changes, it replaces it. You could certainly do something like that. That's an extra step that you can solve once you have a concurrency issue or you start to see your user base grow. But for a general, normal user base, it has been fine for me. Okay, my voice is going. I have 11 minutes left. This feels like it has been the longest office hours of all time, but I think it's just because I'm exhausted. Startup wants to know, is disabled is dynamic? Is disabled is a property that is part of every query that I write when I talk to the Airtable API. So when I come in here and I turn these things on and off, which I want to make sure I turn them back on. I think I fixed this one. When I turn this is disabled on, instantly any query that was going to come in and get a goodbye message now excludes anything that is disabled. So it's dynamic in that all of my code is only looking for items that have is disabled as false. And this sets it to true. So that's how that handles. Oh, sorry. This box here. If I check this box, the query is now ignoring it forever and ever. And when I uncheck it, then any query that runs now will find it. So hopefully that answers your question. Can you please guide how to use the cookbook examples? Detraya is talking about the cookbook on GitHub. If I go to github.com/Alexa, and here there's an Alexa cookbook. Blow this up for you. In this cookbook, you can see that there are all sorts of code snippets for all sorts of things. There's feature demos, there's guides. But if we look at intents and slots as an example, you can see that like, oh, okay, well, how do I use these cookbooks intents? We have instructions for all of this stuff. But if we look at monetization, the what can I buy intent, we have basically created, if I look at the ENUS version of this, you can see that we have a what can I buy intent. This is an intent that you would create inside your interaction model. And you can use this. We've already written a lot of the sample utterances that you might want to use. So in this case, it's just a simple thing for your interaction model. In other cases, if we look at code snippets, in here, no, this is not what I want either. I have to make sure that I find the appropriate locations. I think this is feature demos. You can come in and you can see examples of how to use lots and lots of different features. So multi-value slots is a cool example. I could come look at Lambda, look at the index. And in here, this is an entire Lambda function that handles using multi-value slots. Now, you will have to have these intents and interaction model, but that is provided here for you as well. So you can see in the model, I have an ENUS model. And in here, you can see this is the smoothie demo. I have a make smoothie intent. And then I have a bunch of sample code in here. So when I come to use this Lambda, you can take the interaction model and this Lambda, and you have a sample that does exactly what you need to handle multi-value slots. But you need to basically just build a skill and then replace the interaction model and replace the multi-value slot code with this. And that's exactly what it shows you here is create the hello world example and then substitute the model and the skill code when called for. And so that's all you need to do. Just replace your model and your Lambda with the code that's provided here, and you can see how that feature works. So hopefully that answers your question there, Detraya. Fabio wants to know where I am. I am actually sitting in what is considered the old studio, but we do have an Alexa studio here. That's where I'm sitting. This is here in one of our office buildings here in Seattle. And I happen to be in Seattle this week. And so, yeah, I thought I'd use our studio since I'm here in Seattle rather than just sitting in a hotel room or an office or something. I thought it was cool to bring back this visual. A lot of people are very familiar with all the stuff that's sitting here on the shelves behind me, but we have been here quite a while. Yes, I definitely flew here. I was on a plane, got upgraded to first class. That was very nice. It was a nice little trip. So Anderson wants to know about, I have 1.5 gigs of 6K audio files. Is S3 the best place to store them? I don't have a recommendation for you here, but I will tell you that you're going to pay a high cost for the data transfer on those kind of files with any number of users. My recommendation would be to look into some kind of content delivery network. If you're just storing them, S3 is great. If you want to be able to use them and you're transferring that data in and out of S3 constantly, I would not do that there. I think that would get pretty expensive pretty quickly. I would recommend instead looking into a CDN like CloudFront or something else to handle moving those files to the edge, making them closer to your users, and lowering the transfer costs for you. That's what I would recommend. Okay. Can you recommend a book to learn Alexa skill development? Try it. There's actually several YouTube courses I would recommend, as well as something called Cake Time, which will walk you through a lot of the basics. Alexa, Cake Time. Drop this for you here in the chat. Cake Time is a short course that kind of walks you through how everything works. What are interaction models? How do I think about slots and intents? And how do I make functionality work inside my skill? How do I get permissions for a user's email address or their birth date or whatever? Lots of cool stuff in there. So I would recommend checking out Cake Time. Go through that course. Do that stuff first. But I don't have a specific book that I recommend, although I have written an outline for a book. I have ideas on how I would write a book, but there are books out there, but I don't know that I have one that I specifically recommend. Dabble Lab has some cool tutorials. There's a YouTube series called From Zero to Hero, which was created by a couple of my European colleagues. Lots and lots of great resources out there, but I feel like it's worthwhile to use the resources that are out there. Books tend to go out of date quicker than online material, just because everything's moving so fast, so quickly. There's always new features. Alexa Live is going to shake things up again here in July. So I think that there's a lot of value in looking at online courses, but I think that if you find a book, I can't imagine that it's bad. I can't imagine. And Habooble One's recommending one over on the Pragmatic Programmer's website to check out also. So, yeah, this has been a lively office hours. Thank you guys all so much for being here. This is my favorite part of every week. I hate having to ever miss it. So I'm glad that I had an opportunity to do this here from Seattle, even though it's much, much earlier in the morning. And I hope that I answered a lot of your questions today. This is a lot of fun. I need to get back into writing some code. I haven't built a skill in what feels like a couple of months now, and I have all these ideas for things that I want to do. So we're going to have to get back into that soon. Maybe do some live streaming again in the mornings. Who knows? We'll figure all that out. But with that, I think we're pretty close to time. Are there any other questions I can answer before we wrap up? Thanks, DJ. I appreciate it. Thank you, Startup. Anything else I can help with this morning? I'll show you guys something. My wife just sent me a picture. We do some kitten fostering, which is where we have kittens live at our house for 6-8 weeks maybe until they're old enough to get surgery and be adopted. And my wife just sent me this picture this morning. Is that adorable or what? Sleepy kitten. Oh my goodness. Okay. It's been a great morning. Thank you, Leah. My voice needs to get some water, I think. Thank you, Gavin. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Startup says he has a copy of Creating Virtual Assistants from Dabble Lab. That's pretty cool. All right. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. I will see you again next week. I will be back home in my home studio, but we will have the same office hours, same time, every Tuesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I'll see you soon.